Al Jazeera reported that the United Nations estimated that 23 million Afghan people, 55% of the total population, face extreme food insecurity. This is the result of 4 decades of United States intervention. In parts of Afghanistan, farmers are subsistence farming poppies for opiates in order to eat, as France 24 reported. Between March 1979 and July 1979, the United States began aiding the Mujahideen, which is the Taliban, Al Qaeda, etc., in order to destabilize Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, which were Soviet nations at the time. It was in December 1979 that the Soviet Union intervened to assist the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan in their fight. Operation Cyclone began under Jimmy Carter and continued under Ronald Reagan. Reagan made Osama bin Laden a White House guest, and Reagan asserted that the Taliban and Al Qaeda were the moral equivalents of the US founding fathers. That's a revealing quote on Reagan's behalf. The source for that is Steve Cole's The Bin Ladens. When Gorbachev withdrew, 26,000 Soviets and 18,000 Afghan soldiers had been killed. However, between 56,000 and 90,000 Mujahideen had been killed, as well as 5,775 Pakistani soldiers who were aiding the Mujahideen. Between 500,000 and 2 million civilians were killed. The war cost the USSR 18 billion rubles, which was 50 billion US dollars. Bush Sr. continued Operation Cyclone to support the Mujahideen through the civil war against the Democratic Republic. Najibullah said the United States think they created a Vietnam for the Soviets when they had created a second Vietnam for themselves. That turned out to be an accurate prediction on his part. 3,000 Afghan soldiers and 3,000 Mujahideen died in the civil war before the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan fell in April 1992. This was followed by another civil war between factions of the Mujahideen under the Islamic State of Afghanistan. Afghanistan at that time was mostly controlled by warlords, and the war killed over 25,000 people before the Taliban took over in September 1996. This was a blow to the United States, who had supported the Islamic State of Afghanistan and continued to support the Northern Alliance until the United States invaded in 2001. The first thing the Taliban did when they took Kabul in September 1986 was hang Najibullah, the leader who had presided over the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan. More than 7,850 people died in the civil war under the Taliban's Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan until 2001. In the 20-year war since, over 72,558 Afghan soldiers and Northern Alliance fighters died, as well as 3,576 coalition troops, 52,893 Taliban died, over 2,000 Al-Qaeda fighters died, and over 2,400 Daesh died, and last but not least, over 46,319 civilians were killed. The conflict data program stated that there were over 212,181 deaths in the recent war in Afghanistan. 212,181 deaths at least. That is a huge number. That's more than 2 big football stadiums or 4 international football stadiums. It's scary. ABC News reported on the World Health Organization's warning that 1 million Afghan children could starve this winter. That's almost 5 times the recent war's death toll. Belfast Live reported that Maggie Black, aged 5 years old, died after waiting 1 hour and 10 minutes for an ambulance in Glenarm. Her parents made an emergency response petition, and given the circumstances, that is understandable. Belfast Live reported that Dolan's Nisa in Strabane saw a 20% increase in alcohol sales since the Free State government increased the minimum price of alcohol by 10 cents a gram. Dolan's is expecting a 40% increase in sales in alcohol overall, and basically in Litford, which is right beside Strabane, it's in the Free State, and the average pack of beer there would cost €23, but 500 yards up the road in Strabane is this Nisa, and a pack of beer there would cost £11. So basically, if you can get 500 yards up the road, you're obviously going to go for the cheaper one. And I don't think this occurred to the geniuses in the Leinster House. They just thought that they could increase the rate and keep the same tax take, but with no consultation or cooperation or coordination with Stormont, they've made a pig's ear of it, and quite frankly, they've made their bed and now they have to lie on it. Matt Stoller reported that 60% of inflation directly resulted from corporate avarice for profit and that explains why people are becoming disgruntled with Joe Biden. He hasn't even tried to rein in corporate greed, nor does he have any intention of doing so. Let's go, Brandon. The Chalima report reported that Myanmar is trading with China in yuan instead of US dollars, and this will disgruntle Washington DC. The Hill reported that Elon Musk said low birth rates are one of the biggest risks to civilization. Broken clock time. The World is One reported that Elon Musk also said that wokeism is one of the biggest threats to civilization. He is correct on this as well, but the greed of billionaires, such as himself, is a far greater threat. And just to remind people, early last year, Tesla was found guilty of firing workers for union organising, which is against United States federal law. But he'll never see the inside of a jail cell. CHVN radio reported that Canada installed its first fire station safe surrender baby box in Strathmore, Alberta. Good news from Canada. It's not often I say that. CNN reported that Kim Jong-un marked 10 years as leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and long may it continue. He has managed to avoid a war, and that is a good thing for the people of Korea. The deterrence obviously working. New Atlas reported that China's artificial sun set the world record for nuclear fusion. The experimental advanced superconducting tokamak maintained a temperature of 120 million degrees Celsius for 101 seconds. That's nearly 2 minutes. That's miraculous. The Daily Wire reported that Knoxville Planned Parenthood burned down and was declared a total loss. That is good news for the pro-life movement, as was the Canada news story. The Economist reported that syphilis rates are rising relentlessly in Britain, as if Britain needs any more crises. The Daily Mail reported that Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton phoned Joe Manchin to persuade him to support reform in the filibuster. How well did that work? New York Post reported that Jon Ossoff is pushing a ban on congressional stock trading and snubbing Nancy Pelosi by doing so. It's about time one of the Democrats grew a pair and stood up there. She has just been doing insider trading and making hundreds of millions for her and her family, and it hasn't been called out. And quite frankly, I hope one of the Republicans in the Senate will co-sponsor that, but I can't see it happening. They're too invested in the corruption and the insider trading, and Jon Ossoff is from Georgia, and before Ossoff and Warnock got in. Leffler was one of the senators from Georgia, and she was creaming it on the insider trading. So this is a long-term problem that needs to be addressed. The Irish News reported that the Free State government was urged to intervene on a glaring discrimination against RTE's 6 county viewers. It wasn't that long ago RTE were speaking about how they're the national broadcaster, but a sixth of the country gets poorer service than the rest of the country. Some national broadcaster you are. Well done. The Irish News reported that the European Court of Human Rights dismissed Garflee's gay cake case against Asher's Bakery. And in case anyone has forgotten, that was the Bert and Ernie gay marriage cake. And I think I speak for a lot of people that many are beyond fed up with that Bert and Ernie cake by now. I'm sure it's ruined Sesame Street for many people, because when they see Sesame Street characters such as Bert and Ernie, it reminds them of the cake and the case, and it's just become tiresome now. CBS reported that a dinosaur embryo was found in a fossilised egg. So 2 books, 5 films, soon to become 6 films, isn't enough of a warning. The Associated Press and the BBC reported that 164 people, including 18 security personnel, were killed in the gas price protests in Kazakhstan. I think the cost of liquid petroleum gas increased by 200%, I believe, if not more than doubled. And 7,939 people were arrested. There is context for the Central Intelligence Agency trying to utilise the protests for their regime-changing colour revolution agenda. Kazakhstan is an oil-rich nation, and the Wall Street Journal reported that Kazakhstan has 40% of the world's uranium. This is the United States' motivation. And to provide further context for those gas price protests, Kazakhstan's minimum wage workers make $25 a week. And that's just over $3 a day, basically. 162 of the wealthiest people in Kazakhstan hold 55% of Kazakhstan's wealth. The OECD and the World Economic Forum identified corruption as the biggest obstacle to doing business in Kazakhstan, and the Swiss Credit Agency ranked Kazakhstan 169th out of 174 nations on wealth distribution. As the Encyclopedia of the Nations noted, people in Soviet Kazakhstan lived at an equal socio-economic level. Also on Kazakhstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan and Armenia have intervened to assist this Kazakhstan government under the Collective Security Treaty, which those countries made with each other. The Guardian reported that taxing carried interest as capital gains instead of taxing it as income costs US Treasury $180 billion a decade, which is $18 billion a year. I'm sure the taxpayers of America are just glad to subsidise wealthy moochers. BBC reported that Emmanuel Macron vowed to piss off the unvaccinated. Yeah, he's not being tyrannical at all. France 24 reported that Macron stood by his autocratic remarks. That's no surprise. Irish News reported that Michelle O'Neill told Liz Truss that the protocol must be made to work, and Liz Truss told Michelle O'Neill that she does not want to trigger Article 16.